Hey everyone, it's Not Surprise here, here on another episode of Ranked Ramblings. Today I wanted to ramble about, the style of videos I make and what I think about casual versus, competitive Starcraft 2. So, a lot of people in the gaming community actually know StarCraft 2. They're like, oh yeah. I tell people at school, I'm like, yeah, I play StarCraft. They're like, whoa, you play StarCraft? Is their first reaction. And then their second reaction is, oh man, you play StarCraft. Oh wow, I couldn't play StarCraft. That's such a hard game. And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? I'm like, I'm so good. I'm a crazy gamer. And then they're like, and then I'm like, yeah, you should try. But they're like, no, I can't try StarCraft. That's like a gamer. That's like you have to be crazy at those games. And I was like, huh, that's not what I want. I want people to play StarCraft. And I thought about this more and more. And then my savior, Gerald Lee from Core A Gaming, comes in and uploads a video after 8 months, which, side note, I fucking love Core A videos. I love fighting games, but I don't really play them. I'm not good at them, but I love reading about them and learning about them, very specifically. Maybe the idea of getting good at a fighting game is way more appealing to me than actually getting good. But I think the parallels between fighting games and StarCraft is super interesting. So I love fighting games, and I love the way that they work. And I can't wait for KO 15, by the way. Anyway, he talked a lot about what games are in terms of why some people play games, and he gave two types of people who play games, or when they start. It's the honer and the innovator. And I thought that was really interesting because he mentioned, of course he has to mention, he's literally in Korea and he's talking about esports. He mentions a lot of StarCraft and what I believe are called koinmur games, also known as still water games, where it's just everyone there is just old. If you want to be any good, you have to have played the game for like 10 years, 20 years, you know. So if you think about like, but that's not. And I was thinking about that more, and I'm like, huh. And then I started thinking about, well, what do people think when they play games that aren't like StarCraft? So the fighting game community has this problem, probably like the most exasperated out of it because there are so many games, of balancing between like casual play and accessibility, and while still maintaining complexity. And StarCraft and RTS games also largely have this problem. And I thought that was really interesting to study fighting games because so many fighting games come out nowadays, and there's so many iterations of fighting games. In fact, there's probably another generation of fighting games going to come with the next generation of consoles. And it really got me thinking, there's also a new generation of RTS games coming out, and what lessons can the people make of those games learn from fighting games? And I think there's a lot to be said here. I forgot my second guess. That sucks. I always do that. So when someone says, oh, I play League of Legends, I'd be like, oh, you should try League of Legends. You would say, one person would say like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's like it's like toxic and stuff, and you know, that's perfectly reasonable. And hold on. But then when people like mention StarCraft's not toxic like at all, really. I mean, yeah, there's toxicity, but StarCraft itself isn't a very toxic game. Let me wall off really quick before I get being flooded. So, but the thing is that people will try League of Legends and games like that because it's the team games. I think that's a really large part in it, and there's a lot more community to it. But I was also thinking, but that's not the whole reason, obviously, because I'm sure there are a lot of 1v1 games where people don't really want to, or team games that people don't really want to get into. So, for instance, Team games aren't, being in a team isn't like the only reason to play a game, obviously. And I was thinking, when you think of League of Legends players, or when someone suggests playing League of Legends, you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna load up a League game and kind of play with friends and stuff. But the same thing does not really happen when people mention Starcraft or fighting games. So when fighting games, people might think, oh my god, I'm just gonna have to sit there at a screen, learn combos all day and stuff like that. But the interesting thing is that the memorization that comes in part to learning these games is the most common in games like chess. Like chess, you have to memorize literally so much shit. But it just seems very... But the way that people view chess is completely different. Because it's viewed as like a home game. It's so common that people are going to be like, oh, yeah, I played a little bit of chess. Like, how come there can be so many people that have played a little bit of chess or have dabbled in chess, yet it's such a complex game? And I think that's where the accessibility comes in, and where the innovators thrive. Because you learn a new game, you're like, okay, here's all the pieces, here's all that move, bada bing, bada boom. But in StarCraft, you don't have, what is it, 8 pieces or 6 pieces. You have a lot of pieces. And they all move differently. And they all are worth different things, more complex numbers. They have 2 values attached to them. It's not just 1 point, 3 points. It's, oh, Widowmine, that's 75 points, 25 points, and it also 2 points, and it also costs 21 seconds to even make that. And it's like, well, hold on now, this is way more complicated. And I thought that was just really interesting. And I think that's what makes StarCraft really, really fucking sick. But also, I wanted to talk about arcade games, because this is where this is all leading to, because I purposely try and post arcade content, and content that's holy shit, that's what it is. Content that's not necessarily geared towards, you know, crazy competitive shit. Even though that's what I do, that's what I'm doing right now. When people say, when people know that I play StarCraft, they imagine what I'm doing right now, just, you know, kind of APM spamming, being, you know, playing the fucking game, being high level and stuff. And when people talk about games like League of Legends, or fighting games, they imagine the people at the highest level, which is, you know, it's good for them, good. But I think but the possibility that there's something outside of that, I'm finding the words. The possibility that there's something that's not like the highest level seems foreign. It's not like they don't really consider that they could try that, or like there's something that's not the sweatiest part. Because in a lot of games, like fighting games, you know, there really isn't. If you play fighting games, you're very limited, but what's so amazing about StarCraft is that you're not limited in that way. Same thing, I think that's what makes Smash Bros. Such a great franchise too, because it has that insane complexity when you have games like Melee, but it's also designed very purposefully in such a way that you can create whatever rules you want, and then have that sort of innovator's paradise where you can just do whatever the fuck you want. If you don't like the rules, then you can just kind of change them. And I think that StarCraft is more like Smash than it is like Street Fighter. Because in like Street Fighter, you can't really make custom rules, custom fun games. You're just kind of stuck with your one game. So in some sense, if you play 2D fighting games, you are stuck at that, where people think of your game, and of course they only think about the crazy try-hard, like you have to be Daigo Umehara to play Street Fighter, because that's all there is really, at least to my knowledge. You know, I mean, they have like campaigns and stuff like that, but those are still just the same mechanics, kind of recycled, and just a different mode. But you're doing the exact same thing, but you're just in a different setting. But you play games like StarCraft, arcade games, and then you get things like MOBAs that are created, where it's literally not even close to being the same. Like you might do similar movements, and you know, being good at StarCraft will certainly translate to being good at MOBAs, just because you get the mouse accuracy, the mouse movements, like looking at the mini map, stuff like that. Those will transfer. And I think And I think that's a good thing. You want games to reward people for playing previous iterations, even if you innovate them. So for instance, if you play Smash Brothers with items on, and like Final Destination, and then on like random maps with hazards and shit, the pro player, like MKLeo, will still absolutely dick on me even if I play him with Smash Balls and like items. Like, there's just no doubt about that. But there's also more of a chance that he doesn't. And I think it's interesting that Smash, and it's because of that the question of am I truly better than MKLeo at Smash Brothers if I beat him with like a Final Smash or whatever, with Final Smashers? And the answer is honestly, no. MKLeo is way better than me at Smash Brothers. There's no question about that. He's better than literally everyone. There's not a single person on this entire fucking planet that he's not better than. So then things get really interesting. Where it's like, okay, so sometimes you make arcade games and arcade maps, and if you don't like the rules or, you know, too many honers, it gets too honed, then you can just, as Gerald said, you could just play a different arcade game. And that's what I did. I didn't get into Starcraft because I didn't love Starcraft because, you know, I wanted to be fucking Flash. I mean, you know, I kind of do now as I grew up, but initially as a kid, I played Starcraft because it was cool. Oh fuck. So it was cool being like cool human dudes and like being Jim Raynor and stuff in the campaign. I thought that was sick. I loved like the characters and stuff. That was my favorite part. It was never about like being pro or anything like that. I mean, it was later. But initially, for the first couple of years, I played StarCraft. I played StarCraft for years, exclusively playing arcade games and team games. That's all I played. Part of this was because I think I only had the starter edition, so I was limited. But still, I loved that. That was so fun to me. Like, that was some of the most fun. Like, I still remember playing through the campaign for the first time. I played through the Wings of Liberty campaign for the first time in Chinese because my cousin had the full version of StarCraft 2. And I always wanted to play StarCraft 2. So then when I went to China and my cousin had it, that's all I did. That's literally all I did. Hold the fuck up. Oh, this is not good.
Our SUVs are under attack.
This is not a good idea. And I think I want people to be able to discover that. But I feel that StarCraft is, so long as it's branded as like a extremely try-hard game, you know, you have to be like crazy good. So long as StarCraft is branded as that, then I think the game will suffer. And obviously I don't want that to happen. So that's why when I make YouTube videos and make content, I try to make sure that there is aspects of what made me fall in love with the game in general, in the first place. That it's not just, oh, here's another Grandmaster play who thinks he's fucking crazy, he's going to be the next Flash or whatever. Because when that's the only content that you have, then it really does limit what the people who want to get into your game can do. Because people will see your game and they say, oh, well shit, what the fuck can we even do about this? And I think that's what fighting games need to learn, is how to balance that. And of course, that's going to take some major innovation because, you know, fucking don't ask me how to do that shit. Sakurai was a goddamn genius. Everyone would agree that Sakurai is fucking smart as hell. Like, he's not stupid. Like, he created one of the greatest fighting game franchises of all time. He made fighting games accessible. Like, how the fuck did he do that? I have no fucking idea, but he's crazy because of it. And he's enjoyed tons of success, as deserved. Well-deserved success as well. So then it's really just like, okay. And I think StarCraft needs to do the same thing. Like, I think the tone of StarCraft should and the culture should just be a little bit different. I'm not saying that like esports is bad. Of course not. Of course esports isn't bad. That's all I fucking give a shit about. I mean, clearly, how the fuck could I think that esports is bad? Like, I literally am grinding on the Grandmaster ladder right now. I clearly love the process of getting good at it, but not everyone does, and not everyone has to. And I think that's the important part. Not everyone has to love esports. Not everyone has to give a shit about Cyril or Reyna or whatever. You know, there are a lot of people, and like another clan who are like grown as adults, and they just make like funny, stupid strategies, and it's really, and that's how they play the game. And it's fun. It's amazing, and more power to them, honestly. Because the game should be able to be enjoyed by anyone. I think that's what makes it a great game. So you see on Reddit oftentimes there. No fucking way. No fucking way. That's where all my supply was. I'm like, I have so much supply. Where is it? Oh my god. So I think having because I think Starcraft is a very accessible game. I think it truly is, and I think that's what makes it amazing, is that it is accessible. The thing that hinders it is what I'm trying to get at. The thing that hinders it is the perception that it's not, because I think it is. I truly do believe that Starcraft is a very accessible game, and that it can be enjoyed by by really anyone. But because there is a perception that statement is false, I think that severely hinders the game. Of course, if you want to be good at Starcraft, you have to practice being good at Starcraft. That's just a gimmick. That's not what I'm trying to say. Just like in Smash Brothers, if you want to beat MKLeo, you better fucking lab it up. But what I am saying is that if you don't want to be MKLeo and you still want to play Smash Bros, great. There's so many things you can do. It's meant to be a party game, but the community itself made it a honer's game. So as Corey said, Smash Bros is an innovator's game. It's a casual game. But then the people who want to see who's better at it, because it's really just an amazingly intricate fighting game. So if you want to see who's better at it, then what do? Well, you obviously make things more consistent. You reduce the variance. And that's what happens in Starcraft. Starcraft, there's little to no variance. Okay, there is variance, but very, very little variance. Though sometimes that variance can decide matches of thousands of dollars. So for instance, you may only have 1 or 2 instances of variance that will occur. So map spawns or SCV RNG. And that's like one of the 2 main things that come to mind. And those will decide tournaments. But that is, I think, a talk for another day. Because I don't want to just sit here and ramble on too much. But also, look at that, it's rank 99. I've never been top 100 Grandmaster. Oh! So happy about that. Well, anyway, I will see you all later. Next week, I want to try. So next week, I have a couple ideas for next week's video. I'm very excited about them. And you should check out my. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hey. And yeah, I'm gonna have social links in the description, stuff like that. Whatever. Feed the algorithm overlords, because Lord knows that these videos are definitely not going to discover themselves. Alright, see you later. Peace.